The second and final part. Hassan recounts that during his time in the military, after the strange incident with the shadowy figure standing at the door, even stranger things began to happen to him. Among these was his frequent sighting of people dressed in traditional Arab attire passing by him late at night while he was on guard duty. They would greet him, and the bizarre part was that whenever he focused on them, they would vanish into thin air. But it didn't stop there. One moonless night, and let me tell you, on the borderlines, the moon is the only source of light. Without it, you can't even see your hand in front of your face. Something even more terrifying occurred. Hassan, stationed at his post, suddenly noticed three figures dressed as enemy soldiers approaching him, armed and clearly visible despite the complete darkness, as if illuminated by some mysterious light. Without hesitation, he engaged, firing his weapon at them. But then came the shocking twist. The bullets passed through the soldiers' bodies as if they were made of air. No matter how many rounds Hassan fired, they had no effect. It was utterly surreal. In a fit of hysteria, Hassan began firing wildly in all directions, screaming at the top of his lungs. This commotion attracted a group of officers and soldiers who rushed to restrain him and take away his weapon. Hassan was transferred to a psychiatric hospital where he was interrogated about the incident. He insisted he had seen three enemy soldiers approaching his post. However, all the witnesses, officers and soldiers present at the scene, confirmed that no one had been there. Hassan was kept in the psychiatric hospital for a lengthy period to evaluate his mental health, especially given his sensitive position and constant access to weapons, which could have posed a threat to his fellow soldiers. Meanwhile, back at Hajj Fawzi's house, despair and frustration had taken hold of everyone. Hassan's younger brother, Adele, was in worsening condition. As for Mrs. Naimat, she had only one thing to say to Hajj Fawzi. He must bring someone to investigate what was happening in the house. She was convinced it was haunted by a jinn, or that someone from their estranged relatives had placed a curse on them. Succumbing to his wife's insistence, Hajj Fawzi sought the help of a well-known sorcerer named Sheikh Nabawi, whom an acquaintance had described as an expert in battling jinn and breaking curses. This man was said to have resolved numerous similar cases and was allegedly the only one capable of solving their problem. Sheikh Nabawi arrived at Hajj Fawzi's house on the agreed-upon day. The moment he entered the apartment, he began sniffing loudly, as if detecting a scent imperceptible to others. The onlookers, including Hajj Fawzi, his wife Naimat, and the unnamed acquaintance, were baffled. Before anyone could ask if he smelled something unusual, Sheikh Nabawi's eyes suddenly widened, glaring intensely at the floor. Hajj Fawzi admitted he felt a wave of fear seeing the man's eyes nearly bulging out of their sockets. The sorcerer then knelt to the ground, running his hands over it as if searching for something, muttering in a low, incomprehensible voice. After a prolonged silence, he abruptly stood and declared, "This house was built atop an ancient pharaonic tomb. The tomb's guardian, a jinn from the Red Tribe, the most dangerous and harmful to humans, demands the blood of a child to open its gates. A 12-year-old child was slaughtered here. I can smell his blood clearly. His spirit is trapped in this place and will not leave unless it is appeased with blood from someone in this house. If this does not happen, the guardian may burn you all alive. The reason the spirit has begun to manifest now is that the protection spell that once shielded this house has expired." His tone was deadly serious, causing Naimat to wail in fear. Everyone else stood in stunned silence at what they were hearing. Everyone, that is, except Haj Fawzi. Haj Fawzi knew all too well that the source of his immense wealth and the fortune left to him by his father stemmed from the ancient tomb beneath the house. Years ago, his father and his partners had unearthed a large collection of pharaonic artifacts from the site, splitting the treasure among themselves. At the time, Haj Fawzi was just 16 years old and witnessed the entire event. But he had no idea that the day would come when the curse of the spilled blood would come back to haunt him and exact its price from his family. Desperate, Haj Fawzi pleaded with the sorcerer to find any way to rid the house of the spirit, offering to pay any amount required. But the demand was clear. Someone from the household must die. More specifically, someone must be sacrificed. Otherwise, death would come for them all.
As for the explanation of what happened with Hassan and the mysterious phone call he received, it turned out to be the same spirit. It was trying to keep him away from death so it could take revenge on all of them at once. This was the interpretation given later by the sorcerer when he gathered with the entire family and Hassan during his first leave from the army after spending a long time in the hospital. Events in the house continued to escalate. Fires began breaking out repeatedly for no apparent reason. Terrifying sounds were heard by the family alone, and the incessant cries of a child filled the air. Adele, still in a state of shock, remained unresponsive, silent, and resistant to any treatment for a long time. During this period, Haj Fawzi went from one sorcerer to another, desperately seeking someone who could save him from this nightmare. He admitted that during that time, he had completely forgotten about God. Unfortunately, every sorcerer gave him the same response. Through some form of magical communication with the spirit, they all concluded that blood from a family member was required to release the spirit, or it would remain trapped there until it exacted its revenge. Then came a man named Bahar, a highly renowned sorcerer in Cairo at the time. Known as the Sheikh of Sorcerers, he was rumored to have numerous underground assistants and servants working under his command. Bahar arrived at Haj Fawzi's house after receiving a hefty payment. He began chanting incantations and performing rituals. What happened next was unlike anything they had experienced before. Haj Fawzi later recounted that, as Bahar performed his rituals, everyone present felt the presence of someone else in the room. They could hear the sound of breathing and distinct footsteps that were audible to all. Then, suddenly, the lights went out entirely on their own. Everyone felt as though they were being restrained, bound by an unseen force. They couldn't even speak. The only sound in the room was Bahar's voice. According to Haj Fawzi, Bahar seemed to be speaking to someone invisible, his voice clear and loud, but in a language no one could understand. After a few minutes, the invisible restraints disappeared. Bahar then instructed Haj Fawzi, who was a butcher, to slaughter a specific type of animal. He provided detailed specifications regarding the animal's age, appearance, and gender. It had to be a male. Bahar also described a particular bone from the animal that needed to be extracted. Once the task was completed, Haj Fawzi was to summon him again. Haj Fawzi followed Bahar's instructions exactly. When Bahar returned, he took the bone and began muttering in a low voice. What happened next was beyond comprehension. The bone transformed into a small child. Everyone present confirmed this. The child appeared to be around 10 to 12 years old, but his appearance was terrifying. Surrounded by a fiery glow,
His eyes were entirely black, and his gaze was filled with malevolence as he stared at each person in the room. Bahar continued his rituals, chanting incantations. After a few minutes, the child vanished as though he had evaporated. Bahar then assured Haj Fawzi and his family that the spirit had been expelled. But what truly happened, as revealed by some religious scholars in news reports after the incident went public, was that Bahar had deceived them. Instead of banishing the child's spirit, he had summoned an entire tribe of jinn into the house. These jinn were so powerful that Bahar himself was unable to control them. The jinn ended up destroying the entire family. Yes, you heard that right. Neighbors, having noticed the family's absence for an extended period, grew suspicious and decided to check on them. What they discovered was horrifying. The neighbors entered the house to find the entire family reduced to charred corpses in a grotesque state. Strangely, there were no signs of any fire anywhere in the house. This inexplicable detail caused the story to spread across Egypt, with everyone agreeing that the jinn were the culprits. The person who narrated this story was the same acquaintance who had been with Haj Fawzi every step of the way and had initially introduced him to the sorcerer. No newspaper revealed his name or location, referring to him only as an eyewitness. The house of Haj Fawzi was demolished, and a mosque was built on the site. Indeed, the magician will not succeed wherever he is. This story serves as a stark reminder that anyone who resorts to sorcery will never find good in their life, neither in this world nor in the hereafter. Such is the fate of those who follow what God has forbidden.